Where are they now? Derby County's squad of 2018-19 went all the way to the playoff final but fell short versus Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa have gone leaps and bounds ahead of where they were back then, and they have found themselves heading into the Champions League next season. But what has happened to the team that played for Derby County that year? Where is the current manager, and what is going off with those players? So to start off with, both manager and owner no longer have any part to play at Derby County. Frank Lampard moved on to Chelsea after the playoff final defeat, and Mel Morris, the owner of Derby County, was only the owner for, I believe, 2 more seasons, maybe 1.5 more seasons, before he put us into administration, which resulted in a 12-point deduction. Him leaving the club, Mel Morris, was as a result of multiple FFP breaches and the inability to be able to fight them anymore because of how much money he'd put into the club. Now, Mel Morris has been nowhere to be seen for probably 2 years now. Frank Lampard is currently unemployed as of recording this video, but there is rumours that it's been talked by Birmingham City and Burnley, heading into the new season. Obviously, Burnley's manager has just headed off to Bayern Munich in Vincent Kompany, and Birmingham City's manager Tony Mowbray is essentially taking a leave of sick absence, so has left his role. Now, since leaving Derby County, Frank Lampard has spent time at both Chelsea and Everton, where I thought he performed fairly well at Chelsea, but he was replaced by Thomas Tuchel, who went on to win the Champions League in the same season. He then went in at Everton, where he kept Everton up, and he has been looking for a new job. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below or in this top corner to stay tuned for all my latest Derby County, EFL and European Championship news and updates as it goes on. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, like this video as it helps boost the channel to new viewers, and let me know your thoughts on this squad down in the comments. I think it was absolutely an amazing season, just to fall short of the final hurdle really hurt, but what a massive season with the likes of Mount, Tomori and Wilson. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll get back to you in the next part of this video. Ever since now, is he going to end up at Burnley? Is he going to end up at Birmingham? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Now, let's get on to the goalkeepers. That season, Derby County had 4 different goalkeepers, but only 2 who made senior appearances: Keller Roos and Scott Carson. Keller Roos made 25 appearances, conceding 25 goals with 9 clean sheets that season. He is now at Aberdeen, where he's been playing in Europe. 52 games in all competitions this season, with 13 clean sheets and 73 goals conceded. Now, Scott Carson suffered a back injury during this season, where he only made 33 appearances, conceding 45 goals, collecting 6 clean sheets. He then moved on to City in a loan deal originally, up until the end of his contract, where he's still at Manchester City now, and he has just signed a new contract. He hasn't played many times for Manchester City, but he's picked up a whole abundance of medals, and he is seen as the glue for the goalkeeper department, and his character and his ability has really shown and set standards at Manchester City. Now we move on to the centre-back department, where we're going to start off with talking about Fikayo Tomori. What an absolute beast of a player he was for Derby County. One of the best central defenders I have seen play for this club since becoming a fan when I was a kid, and since having a season ticket. He has probably been the best player I have ever seen in that position when he arrived and all the way through. In that season, he made 55 appearances, scoring 2 goals and 1 assist on a season-long loan from Chelsea. He then went back to Chelsea at the end of the season, where he was one of the options for Frank Lampard. But then, after Frank Lampard's departure, Fikayo Tomori sought more regular first-team football and made a move to AC Milan, where he's gone on to make 35 appearances in this current campaign, scoring 4 goals and playing 9 times in European competitions between the Champions League and the Europa League. Then we go on to Richard Keogh, a player who split massive opinions with events that happened post this season and even events before this season. A player known as Calamity Keogh and Captain Keogh made 57 appearances this season with 3 goals and 2 assists. And he has just announced his retirement from professional football after a short spell with Forest Green Rovers in League Two. But this season, he made 39 appearances, scoring 1 goal across both League One and League Two up until the end of the season. Obviously, it's a sad moment to see him retire from professional football, but after his incident in the 1920 season where he tore his ACL, I wasn't sure we'd ever see him play again, but he found his way back into football and he's ended his career at Forest Green Rovers upon relegation. Now we go on to Curtis Davies. Within this season, he played only 6 times. He suffered a big injury early on in the season, which kept him out for the entire campaign, and nearly ended up ending his career as a whole. He's now set to leave Cheltenham Town after relegation from League One, where he made after relegation to League One, where he made 39 appearances, collecting 1 goal and 1 assist on the route to relegation. Now, he's been doing tons of media work over the past few months, and he did also spend the rest of his career up until last season with Derby County and was a massive integral part of Wayne Rooney's side during administration, where Curtis Davies plays every single minute of every single game. Finally, we get on to talking about Alex Pearce. 22 appearances, 6 of them for the under-21s in PL2, scoring 1 goal and collecting 0 assists. He now finds himself heading into the summer without a club, as he is set to leave AFC Wimbledon this season after a difficult campaign. We now go on to talking all about the left backs within this club. We had 4 throughout that season in Max Lowe, Scott Malone, Craig Forsyth and Ashley Cole. Now, if you'd have told me years and years ago that we'd have had Ashley Cole playing for us in any sort of nature, in a Derbyshire, in any competitive fashion, I'd have told you were lying. But he made an abundance of appearances in the second half of that season, including scoring a goal, I believe it was against Brighton and Hove Albion on debut. He also then went on to be the starting left-back heading into the playoff final. But Derby County's most regular performer was Scott Malone. He played 35 times, collecting 2 goals and 2 assists. Ashley Cole now finds himself at Birmingham City as a coach. Could potentially be part of the shake-up there when a new manager comes in. But if it's Frank Lampard, will he stay? That is a big question. Scott Malone has most recently been playing at Gillingham. I believe he's contracted for next season as well. He made 48 appearances this season, scoring 4 goals, collecting 0 assists. Now, Max Lowe spent time on loan during this season, but he made 10 appearances for Derby County, collecting 0 goals and 0 assists. He's now about to be released from Sheffield United after making a move the season after this it was either the season after this or the season after, where he made a move to Sheffield United. Never really found a groove at Sheffield United. Spent a spell at Nottingham Forest, Derby County's local rivals, and is now set to be released to the abundance of clubs who could potentially be interested. And then finally, Craig Forsyth, the man, the myth, the legend, still at the club today, has recently signed a new 1-year extension. He made 15 appearances this season. I believe he picked up an ACL injury in this campaign, which was one of the reasons why he wasn't the first choice all the way through. But he's still at Derby now, made 32 appearances last season with 3 goals and 2 assists. Obviously, as I've just mentioned, he recently signed a new deal, and I think he's going to be a massive part of the behind-the-scenes programme heading into the 2024-25 season. We now go on to talk about our right-backs with Andre Wisdom and Jayden Bogle. Now, Jayden Bogle had what was considered as an amazing breakout season with 50 appearances, 2 goals and 10 assists. And that amazing season then carried on into the following year, before he then made a move to Sheffield United for what I thought was a tiny cost. It was in a dual deal with Max Lowe, where it was around £7 million for both players. And I just don't, but I believe Bogle was worth that on his own. And He's now at Sheffield United, who have just been relegated from the Premier League. Now, Jayden Bogle didn't necessarily look out of sorts in the Premier League, but he has signed a contract extension to stay with Sheffield United in the Championship. It's going to be really interesting to see how he gets on. Now, Andre Wisdom made 13 appearances with 0 goals, 0 assists throughout this campaign, but he's now playing for Warrington in the National League North Division, where this season he has registered 34 appearances and 1 goal. He had an incident during, I believe it was 2021, where he got stabbed, and I don't think he ever recovered the area properly, which is why he now finds himself in non-league, as he struggled to find a club post being released from Derby County. We now go on to talk about an abundance of central midfielders which Derby County used throughout this campaign. And look, you can see them all on the screen. You've got Joe Ledley, Craig Bryson, Bradley Johnson, Andy King, Tom Huddleston, George Evans and Max Bird. Now we're going to talk about Max Bird first. In that season, he made 6 senior appearances with 0 goals and 0 assists. And he is back in January signed for Bristol City on a permanent deal. But he did stay at Derby until the end of the season and ultimately scored that promotion-winning goal, which was an unbelievable strike at Pride Park Stadium towards the North Stand. And this season, he's probably had his best ever output. He played 39 games, scoring 6 goals with 7 assists. We then go on to George Evans, who has also recently just won a promotion. But in this season, he played 14 times with 1 assist. He was a mix between central midfield and the back 4. But I thought George Evans was a really, really good player. I don't think he ever got the opportunities he really deserved, and I'm not really sure why. He's now at League 2 promoted Wrexham, heading into a League 1 campaign where he played 35 times, collecting 2 assists. We then go on to talk about Andy King, who came in on a loan spell within the January transfer window of this season and picked up a really early injury, which ended up ending his season with Derby County that year on his loan spell from Leicester. And he's just announced, I believe he's just announced his retirement from professional football after the end of his contract at Bristol City. Now, Bradley Johnson is a massive, massive talking point because he was at Derby County for a long while, and in this campaign, he had 34 appearances, 2 goals and 4 assists from central midfield. He then ended up leaving I think it was either at the end of this season or the next season. He ended up roaming around Blackburn Rovers, went to MK Dons before returning to Derby County in a player coach capacity for the under-21s, where this season he made 6 appearances in Premier League 2. We then go on to talk about Craig Bryson, who made 32 appearances in this campaign, scoring 3 goals, collecting 3 assists. Now, he retired at the back end of the 2022-23 season and played in Craig Forsyth's testimonial match at Pride Park versus Stoke City last year, where Derby County went on to win 3-0. Now, he now runs a fitness business and an estate agents, I believe. But I believe he is also connected to a Scottish club where he helps with their S&C and fitness department. Now, we then go on to Joe Ledley, and what a man. He's had his Twitter fame, hasn't he? And obviously the PS4 giveaways, which were obviously not real and obviously hackers, is a time that I will not forget during COVID. But during this season, he made 4 appearances for Derby County, scoring 1 goal. He then went on to retire in 2020-2021 after spending some time at Newport County. Finally, we go on to Tom Huddleston, who this season played 31 times with 1 assist and 0 goals. He's now at United as a player coach for the under-21s. I believe he's due to leave that role as he retires from playing and heads into more of a coaching capacity. We then go on to talk all about the wingers. Now, there's 2 who I think absolutely were phenomenal this season in Harry Wilson and Tom Lawrence. You then go on to talk about Mason Bennett and Florian Josefsohn, or Flojo, as he was called by a lot of the players. Now, when we talk about Harry Wilson, do I think he's gone on to hit the potential that I thought he had? I personally don't think so. But in this season, he played 49 times for Derby County, scoring 18 goals, collecting 6 assists in a season-long loan from Liverpool. He's currently at Fulham after moving there permanently, where he's made 43 PL appearances this season, scoring 5 goals and 9 assists. Now, I believe that Harry Wilson could play for a better team. I think he's quite comfortable at Fulham, though. He's living in Liverpool, living in London, getting a lot of game time, and I think he's fairly happy. Now, we go on to Tom Lawrence. 39 appearances, 7 goals and 5 assists in this campaign. He now finds himself at Rangers after leaving Derby County post-relegation in the 21-22 season, where he was a massive part of that administration season. In that season, he played 39 games, collecting 11 goals and 5 assists for Derby. But then he went on to make his move to Rangers, where he sort of struggled within the first year with a lot of injuries, which I think seems to be quite common throughout those players who played for Derby within that season. But this season, he made 32 appearances, scoring 3 goals, collecting 3 assists for Rangers across all competitions. We then talk about Mason Bennett, who scored some wonder goals in that 2018-19 season. He made 38 appearances, scoring 3 goals and 5 assists. He's now at Burton, where he made 41 appearances last season, 4 goals, 0 assists. There was a lot of drama between Bennett and Derby fans over a social media post where he essentially said he wanted Derby County to burn. And I think it's quite poetic that he's now rotting at Burton Albion, where they only just escaped relegation on the final day of the season. And they've just had an ownership takeover and a new manager come in. So we then close it on Florian Jozefsohn, who I think is probably one of the most overhyped players we ever signed. We bought him in from Brentford and had a terrible, in my opinion, it was a terrible season. Didn't really hit the expectation that the Derby County fans had of him. Didn't hit the expectation of anybody, in my opinion. He did play 34 times, scoring 3 goals and collecting 1 assist, but never really found his feet at Derby County. Is now playing at Bademspor in Turkey, where last season he played 29 games, scoring 4 goals and collecting 6 assists. We then go on to the number 10s, where we have to talk about the one and only Mason Mount. Just recently won the FA Cup. He's also won a Champions League, and he's been in many, many cup finals over the past few years. In the season with Derby County, he made 44 appearances, collecting 11 goals and 6 assists before going back to Chelsea and becoming what was a main man up until the takeover of Todd Bowley. He then found himself moving to Manchester United in a big, I think it was a £70 million move, where he's really struggled this season and he's found himself losing his spot in the England squad, and he only made 20 appearances, scoring 1 goal and 1 assist over this campaign. We then go on to talk about Dwayne Holmes, who I thought was an absolute steal. He was a bargain, £250,000 from Scunthorpe United, and what a signing he proved to be, especially in this season. I thought he formed some really good play, and then in the following season under Philip Cocu, I thought he really hit the ground running. But there was some fan bust-ups at Derby County because of his gaming antics, as you can see by the celebrations shown on the screen. Personally, I didn't really care, but he made 33 appearances, scoring twice, collecting 4 assists in the number 10 central midfield role. He now finds himself at Preston North End. He moved on to Huddersfield from Derby County first, but he now finds himself at Preston North End, where he played 37 times last season with 5 goals and 6 assists. We then go on to close out. We're talking about 3 players who have cult hero moments for Derby County. David Nugent has some impressive moments for Derby County against Nottingham Forest, and in this season he made 38 appearances, scoring 2 goals, collecting 2 assists. He retired in 2021 after a spell in League 2. We then go on to Jack Marriott, who in this season had an up and down season, a turbulent time. He hit a real good purple patch mid-season, but then an argument with Frank Lampard and a potential not going to training to play golf situation ended up sort of cutting his time short at Derby County, but he made 43 appearances for Derby, scoring 13 times, collecting 5 assists with some massive goals in the playoffs against Leeds United. He now finds himself at Wrexham after a spell at Fleetwood Town. He scored 6 times in 46 games this season, but was unable to stop Fleetwood getting relegated, get them out of the relegation zone in the first half of the season, but was part of Wrexham's promotion to League One. Now, we then end with Martin Waghorn. 44 appearances, 13 goals and 4 assists in this championship campaign. He's now about to leave Derby after his second spell at the club, helping them get back to the championship with 27 appearances and 7 goals. Struggled for injuries over recent campaigns and really struggled for goals at the in the back end of last season before he came to Derby, and spent time at, I believe, Coventry and Huddersfield since leaving Derby County. But he now finds himself without a club, looking for a new deal. But will he find one? That is a big question. Now, if you have enjoyed this type of video, let me know down in the comments what team you want me to look over next. Let me see what team are where now, what age group, year, blah, 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 and we'll go through it. And if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. There will have been a link in the top corner to subscribe to the channel as well. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, you hit the like button, as it really helps the channel get pushed to new viewers, and it really helps boost the channel. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Have these players hit the heights you really expected them to hit? Are they where you expected them to be? And I'll let you now get on with your day. Make sure to go and find me on TikTok, pictured here, and Twitter, pictured here. These are the places where I'll keep you all up to date with all my upcoming videos and my thoughts and feelings around the Formula 1 and football weekend.